All right, we are back. We are back. We are back. Good morning, everyone. What's up, Charles Edward Cheese? I see you in the comments already. Um, if you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. All right. Um, this video here, we're gonna discuss Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk. All right. I wanted to do a breakdown, but I wanted to do one live because I wanted to read the comments live, and possibly I'm probably gonna open it up later in the video so people can join if people would like to join. But yeah, I wanted to do a live discussion of this fight. All right. This fight is going to be in August 20th. I don't know what arena. I know it's probably going to be the zone for us. I don't know if it's going to be on Sky Sports and stuff like that. But the fight is not for another month. But I wanted to do an early breakdown of this fight because a lot of people have been asking me to break this down. I know there's other channels that have done breakdowns for this rematch. And I just wanted to give you my general thoughts. I have done some film study. I was actually supposed to discuss this a couple of weeks back when I was doing some film study, but I just didn't get around to doing it. So we're going to do a live video on it for now. And then as we get closer to the fight, probably the week of the fight, like I normally do, I will probably give you, a more thorough breakdown and a final prediction leading up to this fight. But here in this video, we're going to discuss everything that at least what I know about this fight and how I can see it playing out from both sides. Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk. We knew that Usyk clearly won, in my opinion, the first fight. You know, as much of a Anthony Joshua fan as I am, I only gave Joshua 3, maybe 4 rounds tops, and I think I can't even push it over 4 rounds. I think the first watch, I gave Joshua 3 rounds. Okay. I think there was a couple of swing rounds in there, like maybe one or two, but for the most part, I thought Usyk won the fight and pretty clear. I think I've heard others saying that the fight was closer. They thought the fight was closer. They thought the fight could have gone either way. I disagree with that. I just thought that Usyk clearly won the fight. I thought he was more consistent throughout the fight. He landed the better shots. He hurt AJ more, and I thought he won it clear. But I do believe that AJ has the ability and the size to beat Usyk. It's just all about whether or not he can actually get it done. All right, but I had it 9-3 off first viewing, and I'm gonna stand by that. I think maybe 4 rounds tops for me. All right. What's up, everyone that's joining? What's up, Charles? Charles is in here. Arthur, what's up with you? Itty bitty bad boy, what's good with you? Um, so yeah, we're gonna discuss it. I'm definitely gonna reply to comments throughout the video, and definitely towards the end of the video, we can talk more as a group. But so again, this rematch is gonna be in August. We got a month until the rematch. What do we know about this fight? What's gonna be different? Well, for Alexander Usyk, he is coming off of the Anthony Joshua win, but he is coming off of the attack on the Ukraine. I don't know whether or not this may have some effect on him uh, mentally. I know there was a video that was circulating around the internet where he was talking about the war on Ukraine. And in that video there, he didn't look healthy. His face looked sunken in. He looked like he lost a lot of weight. He looked like he wasn't really eating good. He's just probably going through a lot of stress. All right. Since then, though, he's looked better. I know he's been training. He looks like more of himself. I saw the press conferences. He looked like he's gone back to being his confident self. You know what I'm saying? So, oh, you want to say what's up?
Yeah, what's up? What's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
So Usyk seems to be going back to his normal self. He looked good at the presser. He looked healthy, and I think he's going to be ready by the time the fight goes down. I don't think I think the war could have some effect on him, but he looked to be his normal self. you know, and believe it or not, but this could be more motivation. You know, he may feel more motivated to do better in this fight because he's fighting for his country. You know, before he's fighting for himself, he's fighting for greatness. Now he's actually fighting for his country. You know what I'm saying? And I think there could be some motivation for that. Like, listen, my country's going through a lot. Now I want to win this fight for us. So I don't know if that's going to play a mental effect. And if it does, it might be beneficial on his end because he might feel motivated, more motivated to go for the win. Um, with Joshua is the one that lost the fight. Joshua is the one that has to make the adjustments here because I believe that Usyk was prepared for whatever fight that Joshua was going to bring. Whereas Joshua, as I'm watching the fight, it didn't seem like Joshua really had a plan B. And if he did, I don't think he applied it because he wasn't really changing. It wasn't working out for him early, and it didn't seem like he was changing as the fight went on. He had some success as the fight went on. Of course, he's landed some shots. He was able to catch Usyk with a couple big shots. He was able to hurt him, but it didn't seem like Joshua was making the proper adjustments, you know. And I didn't think, again, I thought Joshua should have been a little bit more aggressive. I think we all believe that. I think the game plan to go into this fight is to be more aggressive, use his size, pressure Usyk, fight with Usyk. You know, he said things in past interviews like he's gonna take it to the streets and he's gonna probably be on his grind for this fight. But mentally, can you actually apply that in the ring, especially when you're getting hit? When you're getting touched up and tuned up, if you want to bring the pressure like Derek Chisora is not the type of guy that cares about getting hit. Anthony Joshua is. So can Anthony Joshua mix a little bit of what he can do in the ring on a technical standpoint? Can he mix that with a little bit of the aggression that we saw with Derek Chisora in that fight? Can he mix a little bit of what Tony Bellew was doing in that fight against Usyk? And that's another huge point and factor that I'm going to keep touching back on in this breakdown that I think is very, very important when it comes to Usyk's past opponents. The ones that were doing well against him in the first half of the fights, like Derek Chisora. He was doing well because he was able to put heavy, heavy pressure on the smaller Usyk. All right. He was landing big shots to the body. All right. Big looping right hands. He kept changing his position. He was switching. You know, he was throwing punches from awkward angles. Chisora was doing a lot. But with that being said, this is a guy that was being extremely reckless. He didn't have much of a concern with defense when it came to that. He was just coming straight forward and he was using his face as defense, you know? So once Derek Chisora started to slow down, even though he was doing well, it became very easy for Usyk to hurt him a little bit more often in the second half, you know, land those bigger shots. But Usyk was on retreat mode early in that fight because of the wild style that Chisora brought in that fight. I don't think AJ can do that. You know, even though AJ is bigger, AJ does not fight like that. And I don't think AJ mentally can fix himself to fight that like that. He's more of a technician. He cannot fight like that. I want to bring up a point. Roy Jones Jr., I remember when I was rewatching some of the fight a couple weeks back. And I remember Roy Jones saying in the third round, and it's very important, Anthony Joshua has to stop trying to place a punch on Usyk because it's going to be very difficult. Stop placing his hand on Usyk. Stop worried about placing a punch and hit him. Hit him. And I totally agree with what he was saying because as Joshua stood in front of him, all right, he was trying to play chess with Usyk, seeing if he can put his hands on him. He was trying to figure Usyk out. Usyk, in the meantime, is doing what Usyk does. He's changing levels. He's doing a lot with that lead hand, right? He's changing directions. He's stepping around AJ. He's doing what Usyk did while Joshua stood right in front of him in range. You got to understand, Usyk was in range and Joshua allowed him to be there. And I don't know if that was the original game plan. I don't know if Joshua was confident. I think Joshua, and I've said this before on the channel, I think Joshua wanted to go in this fight, proving that he can technically beat Usyk in a boxing match. He fought that way. I did a breakdown and I was wrong on a prediction. But one thing that I didn't expect was AJ to fully try to outbox Alexander Usyk. I wasn't expecting Canelo to try to outbox Floyd Mayweather. I expected them both to use their boxing ability, but also use their size to be the aggressor, you know? And I didn't get that. I mean, I picked Floyd to win that fight, but in the fight with Joshua and Usyk, I expected Joshua to bully Usyk at least a little bit, make him retreat a little bit. Maybe not like the way Derek Chisora did it, but make him somewhat fear you because of your power and your size. Instead, what you did was keep Usyk, or Usyk was in range the entire time and just looking for opportunities to catch Joshua with that straight left. And unlike Tony Bellew in that fight, because there's a Tony Bellew fight with Usyk where Tony Bellew was doing excellent against Usyk early on. In that first half of that fight, he was doing excellent. I mean, as far as boxing, we know that what's his name? Damn, I can't think of the name. Breedis. We know that Breedis did the best against Usyk, without a doubt. Breedis is the only guy that almost won the fight. But Bellew was, I feel like Bellew gave the blueprint of how to keep Usyk out of range. Breedis was going punch and punch and punch for punch with Usyk. He has the boxing ability to do that. Okay. Whatever Usyk fired at him, he fired right back. Had Usyk against the ropes. It's a different fight, right? He brought the pressure. He brought the fight to Usyk. It's just that he wasn't able to maintain it in the second half. Same thing with Michael Hunter. If you guys never seen that fight, that was another good, very competitive fight against Usyk where somebody was able to go punch to punch with Usyk. He just couldn't maintain it in the second half against Usyk because Usyk, he's got, he's going to fight longer and he's going to let you outwork him early, but he's going to get you later. If you can't maintain it, you're in trouble. And I have yet to see a fighter maintain it. Yes, Iron Fist, I agree with you 100%. And you see both of your comments. Bellew's performance against Usyk is very underrated. Very underrated. And as far as boxing ability, I feel that Joshua can somewhat do with what Bellew was doing. I think he has the ability to do that, but maybe not as good, but he should use his size to even things out. All right. I think Bellew's performance was great. It's just that he couldn't maintain it. And once Usyk started to catch that rhythm like he normally does in that 6th, 7th, 8th round, whatever round it was, that's when things change. Once Usyk started to get in range, it was over for Bellew. Because he just couldn't keep it up. Same thing with Michael Hunter. Hunter was going blow to blow with him. Great fight. Check the fight out. It's a while ago, but it's it was probably the first fight I seen of Usyk where Usyk was really being challenged. You know, it's one of those good fights. It was a good fight, but Usyk takes over in the second half every single time. Chisora, Bellew, Hunter, Breedis, all of them, they just couldn't maintain it. They all gassed out. They all gassed out. You know, even if you're doing well against a guy, how long can you do that? Now, when it comes to Joshua, the reason why I say take a little bit from the Bellew blueprint, I said this in the original breakdown in the first fight. You got to maintain the distance. Bellew, he won the war of the straight right versus the straight left. He was able to time Usyk and keep him out of range. He was able to counter him. All right. We've seen a lot of pull counters from Bellew that landed. So whenever Usyk would try to step in, and another thing too, and a very important key factor when it came to Bellew and range and timing, Bellew he had the footwork to be able to keep Usyk right on the line. So when Usyk attempted to step around him, you know, when he would step to his left and try to shoot that left hand using that angle, Bellew did a good job in taking like half steps back and turning with him. So if Usyk is turning to his right, you know, or at least trying to step around you to his right, Bellew will turn pivot and keep him right in front of him. So he was able to, boom, catch him with the right hand. Every single time Usyk would try to step around him and get closer, Bellew kept catching him with the right hand, keeping him right outside of range. Like, you're not going to get in my space. And if you are going to get in my space, take this right hand with you. On your way in or on your way out, you're going to get caught with this right hand. Joshua was not able to do that. He just wasn't able to do it. He kept Usyk right in front. And whenever Usyk stepped around him, Joshua was frozen. And he would pivot and move to his right and turn to his right. But by that time, Usyk was already landing the punch and exiting out. It was just too late. Joshua was just too slow. He couldn't figure it out. And like Roy Jones said in the commentary, he was trying too hard to place his hand on Usyk instead of hitting him with a hard punch. He was just trying to get it. He would throw one every now and then, but he wasn't really throwing a power shot because he was trying to catch him, but he was trying to figure out the movement. You can see it in his face. You can see it. And you got to remember, Joshua doesn't have a lot of experience in fighting southpaws. So you don't have a lot of experience fighting southpaws. He went 2 rounds with one against Charles Martin years back. Charles Martin is nowhere near on a level to Usyk. Nowhere near. He's not even close. Lincoln, I see your comment, man. No whiskey right now, man. I actually got some coffee. That's it. It's too early for the whiskey. But thanks. Now, I would do the drink if it was more of a chill video, but being that I'm doing a breakdown, very, very technical one too, you know, I gotta be on point. You know, so no whiskey for now, maybe a little later. But like I was saying, Joshua didn't have a lot of experience of fighting southpaws. We saw him fight Charles Martin. We saw his Olympic gold medal fight, okay, which was a pretty close fight. Some people feel that Joshua lost that fight. But outside of those 2 fights, there's not much film of Joshua fighting southpaws. So how do you go from Charles Martin and your Olympic fight to going straight to Usyk? He's trying to, you can see that while we're watching a fight, Joshua is learning while on the job. He's learning in this fight, and he's trying to figure it out, where guys like Breedis, guys like Bellew they look more comfortable in there with Usyk. They look more comfortable. Derek Chisora is different. Derek is just trying to maul you. He's making it into a street fight. He's just trying to bully you. Joshua is not going to bring that kind of fight. Now, Joshua has picked up Robert Garcia. I know he's been working with James Ali Bashir. I don't know if he's still in part of the camp. I know months ago he was working with them. So I'm sure that there's new things he's going to learn preparing for this fight. Joshua has been in a rematch before. He was in a rematch with Andy Ruiz. So I don't want to sit here and make it seem like Joshua is not capable for improving for this fight. You know, because I know Andy Ruiz is not on a level of Usyk. I understand from a technical standpoint, he's not. But just to see a difference in Joshua from the first Ruiz fight to the second one, a fight that most people at that time felt like it was very dangerous. I was one of the very few people, and I follow a lot of channels, and I listen to a lot of I read a lot of comments on views on Joshua going straight into an Andy Ruiz rematch. I can tell you at that time, a lot of people did not think it was a good idea for Joshua to get into a rematch, an immediate rematch with Andy Ruiz. I was one of the very few people that thought he should, and I was very confident that he was going to win the rematch. I didn't know how he was going to win it. I didn't know it was going to be by knockout, but I knew that was a fight that he could win. This is different. This is different because I got to actually see what AJ is going to do differently. And it's not only about what he's preparing to do, it's about doing it mentally. Can you get it done that night? And if this fight goes to distance or into the later rounds, like the first one did, can he keep that level? Whatever's working for him this time around, if he is winning, and I think he is going to be doing well in the earlier rounds this time. Can he maintain that if the fight continues going on? Obviously, if he is hurt Usyk and knock him out, that's different. But if he's going to go the stretch with Usyk like he did against Andy Ruiz, can he maintain whatever's working for him? Or is Usyk going to push hard in the later rounds and take over like we've seen him do it many times before? These are the questions that we have to ask and see and wait and see what happens on the night of the fight. All right. We're going to continue. I'm going to read some of your comments. Let me just scroll up a little bit. All right. Salute D. Salute to everybody that's here. Please hit the thumbs up, share the video if you can. All right. This is in August. Yes, this fight, Les. This fight is in August 20th. All right. D says, if you ask me, I don't know how Joshua wins. He tried pushing the pressure, which he had success in the second half, but Usyk caught AJ with a shot that made him retreat. And this is another point that I wanted to bring up. When you try the pressure fighter, who's a good counter puncher, had great timing, great technique like Usyk does, you got to understand that there's a chance that you may get hit more. You might get hit with shots that you don't see coming because now you're not being as cautious. So we got to put that. We also have to add that into the equation here because if Joshua is going to come and be more aggressive, like we're all expecting him to be, maybe there's a chance he might get hit more. Maybe this time he gets hurt for real. All right. Les says Joshua got to get a KO. No way he outboxes Usyk. I think the KO should be the plan, in my opinion. All right. A thing is too, when it comes to plan Bs, like I said earlier, Usyk was prepared for whatever Joshua was going to bring that night. I believe that. You know why? Because Usyk have made adjustments in fights. He's fought against guys that try to be more aggressive than him and won all of those fights. You know what I'm saying? So these are all of the things like I think whatever AJ is going to do in this rematch, Usyk was prepared for that in the first fight. He just didn't have to go into that bag. We just saw Devin Haney outbox George Gambosos with a jab alone. You know why we didn't see more from Devin Haney? Because he was winning with the jab alone. So he didn't have to go into a different bag. He was winning right just how he was winning. Lincoln says, BoxingWave president of the entire world. Also, I think AJ will be much more aggressive, stop Usyk in 6 rounds. I hope so. I'm pulling for AJ. I hope so. I hope so. Les says his corner said brilliant after losing rounds didn't help him. Yeah, that didn't help neither. That doesn't help. You know, we need someone that's going to be coaching him in between rounds and instructing him what to do better, either what to keep doing if he's having success or what to do better. But if things shift throughout the fight, which I'm expecting it to, that corner got to be on point. Robert Garcia got to be like, yo, work on this, do this. That's the kind of instructions he needs to get, because Usyk is going to be changing it up like he always does. All right. Some people say, and I'll go back to answering some more of the comments. Some people say that Joshua has mentally lost his killer instinct, and people have been saying that for years. They feel that after he lost to Ruiz, he lost his killer instinct. I like to go back to the Ruiz fight, the first one. When Ruiz got dropped, that combination that we saw when Joshua landed the combination and dropped Ruiz, this was right before Joshua gets knocked down. That is some of the things that Joshua needs to do for this rematch that we didn't see in the first fight. He needs to step in and throw some hard combinations to the body as well. Let's get a body shot. There's been this video that's been circulating around the internet a couple weeks back, a better BF dropping Usyk with a body shot back when they were amateurs. Usyk is not invincible. He's one of the elite fighters in the world, but he's not invincible. And I know the video is old, and I know he hasn't been knocked down as a pro. He hasn't even really been badly hurt from a place where, you know, he was almost stopped or anything. He's been rocked a few times, but nothing crazy. He's always recovered well. We need AJ to take those kind of risks, but be smart. Look for the opportunities to step in and throw the combinations. You have to be aggressive. How he won against Andy Ruiz in that rematch, it's not going to work with Usyk. It seems like he tried to do what worked for him in that rematch in Andy Ruiz fight. He tried to win this first fight with Usyk the same way, and it didn't work out. It's not going to work out. We need him to be aggressive at times. There's times in a fight where he's going to have to use the range to keep Usyk out of range. But there's going to be times where he needs to step in and bully, hit him with some heavy combinations. You got to switch it up constantly. You can't just keep giving the same look, especially when Usyk, you leave him in range without having to retreat at all. There's nothing power. It's nothing with big power getting thrown at him. At least not enough. Not enough in the first fight. Joe said Usyk pound for pound. If Joshua wins, it'll be a real achievement. I'm rooting for him. Yes, it would be a great achievement if he was to win this fight. You know, especially because we've seen what Usyk is capable of doing even as a heavyweight coming up from cruiser. You know, Anthony says, do I think the style that Robert Garcia trains his fighters in terms of high punch output, with punches landed and thrown, would a high punch output work for a heavyweight boxer? Yes, it would work for him. It would work for him, being that he is the bigger guy. You know, but I don't know. See, this is what I don't know. He's going to have to find a way to balance it, because we got to be realistic. Joshua is no Chisora. He's no Joe Joyce. He's not going to just be walking in like a freight train and just like with just like total disregard to defense. Joshua, that's not him. That's just not him as a boxer, as a fighter. It's not him. He's been aggressive. Like he was aggressive at certain points in the Pulev fight. He was very aggressive against guys like Brazil and guys like Dillian White, where he fought Dillian White like he wanted to take his head off. I don't know if AJ can be like that right now, but he needs to try to be. But he needs to have balance. We need to see some of that technique, but we need some aggression too. And it still this is the key thing. It still may not be enough. Because Usyk is not only going to defend himself, but he's going to fire it back. He's not like these other guys that's standing right in front of AJ. He's going to be using a lot of movement. I can't think of one really good mover that AJ fought. I can't think of one really good. I can't think of one fighter in the heavyweight division that is able to use the angles that Usyk uses. He's fought very talented fighters like Povetkin, Klitschko, but Usyk brings something different. Him and Lomachenko, all of those fighters being trained by Papachenko, they have their own style. And a lot of it is based on movement and angles with pressure. Now, Bellew did a great job. And he's just a little bit more elusive than AJ. You know how Bellew was able to just shoulder roll and duck over, duck down to his right constantly just to avoid Usyk. But it looked very natural. It was very natural for Bellew to take that step back and hit him with that right hand whenever he wanted. It looked very natural. I don't know if AJ is capable of doing that. And even though he's improved as a boxer and as a technician, I don't think AJ has shown me that he can be that elusive in the ring. I haven't seen that. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, Dawson, you're right. Joseph Parker is probably the best mover that AJ fought. Glad you brought that up. But that's why it wasn't a good fight. Also because of the ref, because whenever it was in close range, the ref would jump in and break them up and separate. It was a terrible ref for that fight. But the reason why the fight wasn't so entertaining to watch is because both fighters not only fought too safe, but Joseph Parker was doing some really good movement. The problem is he wasn't on the attack, and AJ was having a hard time getting to him. So it was a fight that AJ won, but it wasn't. It didn't make him look good, and it didn't make Joseph Parker look good neither because he fought too safe. Like AJ was trying to be aggressive, but you can tell he was struggling. He was struggling a little bit with Joseph Parker's slickness. Luckily for him, Joseph Parker was fighting very safe. He was just trying to avoid getting knocked out. It just wasn't a good fight, but it definitely, Joseph Parker was definitely the best mover. And yes, Usyk is above him as far as skills. Yes, as far as overall talent, Usyk is way above Joseph Parker. He brings a lot more. Plus, he's also a southpaw. Yeah, Star Fox says body shots are underestimated. Yeah, body shots need to be a factor too with AJ. We didn't get enough from them in this fight. In this first fight, we didn't get enough. But you don't want to get countered for going to the body. I know he was trying to play it safe, but he has to dig to the body. And he has to look for those opportunities to get in. Again, it's all really about it's all like because there's no real true blueprint to beat Usyk because we haven't seen it done. There's no real blueprint because even when Usyk was losing, he was always able to come and finish strong. No one has beat Usyk in the second half of a fight. No one. So if he can't get the knockout, he's gonna have to find a way, to continue maintaining whatever's working from him in the first half. He's gonna find a way. He's gonna have to find a way. Does he have the conditioning to do it? If Usyk steps it up, because I believe that if AJ is having great early success, right? If he's having early success, I think the only way he wins in the second half too is if he's catching Usyk with heavy, heavy shots that's actually hurting him, that's keeping Usyk away, from stepping in, right? If he's struggling early on, if AJ is struggling early on, like the way he was doing in the first fight, like let's say we're done with round 6 and Usyk is winning maybe 4 rounds to 2, or maybe even if it's 3-3. I don't think that's good going into the second half. I just don't think that's good. I think he needs to be doing much better in the first half. But this is a rematch, and part of the reason why I think Usyk has a better chance of winning this fight is because it didn't feel to me like as a fight was closing out, I don't feel like AJ really figured it out. I didn't think he finished strong enough to make me think like, okay, maybe in a rematch he has a better chance. No, they have to completely throw away the original plan and go into this rematch doing completely better. That's what he's going to have to do. He's just going to have to throw whatever was the game plan in the first fight. He has to completely let go of that and do better this time around. He has to. Joe asks, does Usyk ever get caught? Yes, he gets caught a lot. And again, this, as I stated earlier in this video, there are fights where he was getting hit a lot. He's been hit a lot as a cruiser and a heavy. Derek Chisora hit him a lot. Derek Chisora is a puncher, pressure fighter. Chisora hit him a lot. Bellew hit him a lot. He hit him with right hands for a whole half of the fight. Clean. Bellew got power at cruiserweight. Same thing with Michael Hunter. Same thing with Breedis, who was also a puncher at cruiserweight. All of these guys were able to hit Usyk with some big shots throughout their fights. And we've never seen Usyk get knocked down. I mean, even Joshua hit Usyk with some big shots. I believe the fight is going to be on the Zone in America. Okay. But I believe if you're out in the UK or anywhere else, it's going to be on Sky Sports. It's going to be Sky Sports fight. And that's why I'm kind of leaning towards Usyk simply because not only did he win the first fight, but I still feel that he finished stronger. I mean, they even stopped the last round ended up some few seconds early. I think someone just said that in the comments. Shout out that everybody's here. Please hit that thumbs up for me. Share the video if you can as well. So I don't know. I don't know if we just gotta have to wait and see. I don't know if Robert Garcia or James Ali Bashir or all of the things that AJ might have learned with this time off. I don't know if it's gonna be enough to win this fight. I think in order for AJ to risk it, and I don't know, this might sound a little controversial. I think in order for AJ to win this fight, he's going to have to risk getting knocked out. He's going to have to risk getting knocked out. And what I mean by that is that I think he has to be defensively aware, but he needs to be more aggressive. And he's going to have to risk getting knocked out. It is what it is. You know, this is not going to be safe, outbox, and keep Usyk right in front of me. He's going to have to put some pressure on Usyk in some of these rounds. I mean, hard pressure, smart pressure. He's going to have to do it, but he's going to have to risk. If he wants to win this fight, he has to work. Like, you don't want to get knocked out. I understand. You don't want the embarrassment of getting knocked out again. He's already experienced that. You don't want people to write you off completely if you want to lose. You know, but you know what? You already lost to Usyk. You already been knocked out before. You've been stopped before, at least. You're gonna have to risk. You're gonna have to take some risk in order to get this win. It's not gonna be like Andy Ruiz too. Randy asks, and it's a pretty good question. Randy asks, who do I think learned most from the fight, AJ or Usyk? I think they both learned. Usyk learned how to beat him. Usyk knows what works against AJ. Usyk also has the mental edge over AJ, in my opinion, because he already done it. This is the first time we see Usyk in a rematch. All right. We already know how good he is, but now we know exactly what he needs to do to win. I think AJ is learning. I think AJ learned more in the sense that he got the experience of fighting a really good southpaw, an elite level talent that is going to bring a fight to him it was a completely new experience for him. So in that sense, AJ learned more, meaning like he got educated more as a boxer. We know that Usyk is much more experienced than him. If we're comparing boxing career, amateur and pro, Usyk is by far more experienced. We knew that going into the first fight, but AJ learned more in that fight. It's all about who's going to be the better fighter on the night of the fight. DJ Dixon, thank you for the donation. You say that you said you're 100% right. I said that before. He needs to come in and put that pressure on him and throw them things. Yes, he does. He does. He absolutely does. And he's going to have to take some risks. And you got to understand mentally, you got to understand that, I can get knocked out in this next fight. But what I need to do is AJ got to know that he can't play it safe this time. And thank you again. All right. Anthony says, with the amount of punches that Robert Garcia has his fighters do you think that can actually work in a heavyweight division? I did answer that earlier. What I said in that, when you asked me, I did read the comment earlier. I said that AJ in volume, I don't know if AJ has the conditioning to do it and maintain it for 12 rounds. For 12 rounds, I don't know if he can do it. AJ needs to learn, and I think he has learned. AJ is going to have to be able to pace himself and take certain rounds off, slow down the pace, making a boxing fight, and then certain rounds he's going to have to keep that pressure going. Fighters do it all the time. Not every fighter is going to go in there and going to be hard pressure for 12 rounds straight. Not even Usyk does it. You know, Usyk brings the pressure, but Usyk is using a lot of his times. He and both Lomachenko, I feel like they're so similar. A lot of the times they're taking rounds off, and people don't even realize when they're taking rounds off. They're still on the attack and they're still placing shots on you, but they don't realize that a lot of their power shots are not coming until the ender or the later half of that fight. AJ is going to have to find periods and balance where, yo, these 2 rounds, I'm going to come hard at you. And these other 2 rounds, I'm going to take off. Errol Spence Jr. does it all of the time. There are going to be rounds where you can tell clearly he's trying to knock you out. You saw it in the Mikey Garcia fight. In the Mikey Garcia fight, there's rounds that he was trying to obliterate Mikey Garcia. And there's rounds that he was taking off and he was just winning on points. He was just outscoring. So he's going to have to learn how to pace himself because he's not Joe Joyce. He's not that type of fighter. Joe Joyce, hard pressure all fight long. Volume. Right? It's not accuracy. It's more about volume. So I think what they need to do is, what can we do with AJ based on how AJ fights? You know, and that's when it comes like having a good chemistry of coach. It depends. It really depends on the chemistry of the coach. Coach might be used to training fighters to do a certain thing, a specific thing with the majority of everybody in their camp. But you got to know how to work with that fighter and their style. I'm going to blend a little bit of what I'm good at training fighters do, and I'm going to mix that with what the fighter is capable of. DJ Dixon says Loma father is the trainer for Loma and Usyk. Yeah, this is what I said this earlier, Papachenko. And that's why they're so similar, you know, because a lot of their movement, the way their style is, a lot of their style is based on the movement, the angles, getting in position, getting out of position, and not always being on the attack. Look for the opportunities first. You don't know when I'm going to throw the punch. I learned that with Lomachenko in the Gary Russell fight. There was time when Lomachenko was like, I'm going to just see if I can get in, and then I'm going to get out. I'm not going to hit. I'm not sitting down on a lot of these punches. I'm going to mix a lot of my lighter punches in there with a lot of the heavy shots. You don't know which one is going to be heavy. I think that's what like the two of them are really great at doing. You don't know which punches are going to be heavy. I'm going to land 3 or 4 shots. The 5th one might be the heavy one. Femi asks, do I think AJ will get the credibility he deserves if he beats Usyk? I think so. I think people that are extremely critical of AJ or just not fans of him, I don't think he's going to gain their respect, you know, because at the end of the day, people are going to always say that he has 2 losses. They're always going to say, well, let's say he knocks Usyk out or wins the fight. They're going to just say, well, you just beat a cruiserweight. People are still going to say that. It doesn't matter. You know, I know Usyk is 3 fights in as a heavyweight. People are going to say what they want, you know? And that's how boxing works. You know, some people could go their whole career having great wins, and people are still going to say, well, he wasn't that good. He's overrated. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, not everybody, AJ is not everybody's cup of tea. There's a lot of people that just simply don't like AJ. There are some people out there that don't like Wilder. They'll never like Wilder. Even if Wilder had beat Tyson Fury, do you think that Wilder still wouldn't have gotten criticized? He would have got criticized too. Tyson Fury is still getting criticized by fans, even with the Deontay Wilder wins. Because there's something always, no one has the perfect role in their career. Even if they are undefeated, no one has a perfect role. You could talk about Joe Kazagi. He retired undefeated. All right, well, yeah, Joe was good, but he beat Roy and Bernard Hopkins late. You know, you're going to always have something to say about any fighter. It doesn't matter how, no one has the perfect career. There's always things that you can pull up. Timing, selection of fighters. Not every fighter for every fighter uh at their very best. You know, you can say that about Rocky Marciano. Like, if you even go back to him, you're gonna say, oh, he fought certain fighters at the end of their career. And then right after he retired, a new breed of heavyweights came in. He got out the game while he was still fresh. We can critique everybody that's retired. So I think, you know what? It's all about getting the win. You're always going to have critics, you know, and I think that he's going to have critics still, even if he wins his fight. Even if he was to find a way to knock Usyk out in the third round, people are going to say, well, Usyk hasn't been the same since the attack on Ukraine. He's not the same. Or Usyk is going to be a little older. It's not like Usyk is young. How old is Usyk? Alexander Usyk got to be like maybe 35 right now. They're going to say, well, he's old. Yeah, he's 35. He's older. Usyk is older. Usyk is not the same. You know, he mentally, he wasn't the same after what happened with the Ukraine. You know, we don't know. You know, but win or lose, I just hope the winner, whoever is the winner, I hope the winner is going to fight, you know, Tyson Fury for undisputed. That's what I would love. That's what I hope. You know, I've said this, you know, I just said this the other day. I hope the winner fights Tyson Fury. You know, I already know that I don't believe Fury is retiring. You know, I think Fury's just putting it out there like, listen, if you want me to return, you have to pay me a lot of money for me to return. You know, if you want me back, pay up. I think that's what he's just doing. I think he's just being he's just thinking from a business standpoint. If you want me to return, you're gonna have to pay the big bucks to see me fight again. Because he feels like I don't have nothing else to accomplish. I think he does. I think he'll definitely fight Joshua. I'm just not sure about Usyk. All right. Femi says AJ needs to win. It only makes Undisputed more exciting. Well, AJ AJ is AJ and Fury is gonna be a bigger fight. It just is. All right, especially for the British fans. You know, that would be the biggest fight in British history. You know, and it'll be an undisputed fight, without a doubt. But if AJ doesn't win, Usyk deserves that big fight. He deserves it. You know why? Because he went through the entire cruiserweight. He went through the entire cruiserweight division and was able to become, you know, unified as a heavyweight. That's a major accomplishment. So he would definitely be well more than deserving to get that Tyson Fury fight. And I want to see it. All right. If AJ loses, I still want him not to only fight Tyson Fury at some point, but I would love to see him fight Wilder immediately. You know, that's just my thoughts on that. Yeah. So as far as going back to the fight and breaking it down, you know, I think, like I said, as far as Usyk and changes to be made, I think Usyk needs to stick to what his original game plan is. I think he's expecting AJ to be more aggressive early. I think that if that is the case, I think Usyk this time around, I think Usyk needs to just be a little bit more cautious. If he's getting that feeling like AJ is putting down more power and he's being more aggressive, I think Usyk needs to go back to what we're normally seeing him doing when he's getting pressured early, like we seen in a Breeders fight, like he's seen in the Bellew fight and Chisora as well. If he is getting pressured and AJ is using his size, if AJ is trying to bully him in any way, give some of those early rounds up. Play it safe. You don't want to get hurt early. Play it safe. Keep that guard up. Stay on the move. All right. And stay out of the hot zone. Stay out of danger. Look for opportunities to land counters here and there, but play it very safe. If AJ is going to be more aggressive, you'll get him later. That is Usyk's game plan. And I'm sure that is pretty much Usyk's game plan with every fight. Usyk is always finding ways to win these fights. So if there's a chance where he's losing early because AJ's pressure is just too much, look for the better opportunities on the later half when AJ starts to slow down. That's what won him in every fight, and that's his game plan. That's all he really needs to do. That's all he really needs to do. AJ is really more about AJ. We already know how Usyk could win the fight and how Usyk can adjust to the fight. It's more about what is AJ doing differently. But I do believe that AJ is capable of winning. I think he can win. But I'm just not sure. Igor asks, who has a better chance of a KO in this fight? I don't know. It really depends on how the fight goes. It really depends on how the fight is going. I haven't seen Usyk almost get knocked out before. Usyk has a great chin. I think that's one thing that we forget to bring up. Usyk has a great chin. He's fought punchers in his whole career, even before. Usyk schooled Joe Joyce. Schooled him. Schooled him. Right before he went pro. Schooled him. He took his power. He took Chisora's power, Breeda's power, Bellew's power, AJ's power. He took all their power already. I think if AJ is going to knock him out, I think AJ will have to consistently punish him or hurt him to the body. AJ's going to have to land some big hooks to the body. I think AJ's chances of getting a knockout is going to his body. I don't think it's just going to be continuously like head hunting. He's going to have to go to his body this time around. He's going to have to make Usyk retreat in some way. What's up, Retro? What's good with you, Blood? Blood Boxing is in the building. Make sure you guys subscribe. Yo, he's going to have to do something different. But to answer your question, as far as the KO, I think Usyk has a better chance of getting the KO only because I feel like he hurt AJ a lot more in their first fight. And I think there's going to be a risk that comes with AJ being more aggressive. I think if AJ comes more aggressive, no, it's not. I think it's not. I think we know that AJ is going to come more aggressive this time around. We know it. Everybody knows that AJ is going to be more aggressive in this fight. I think the risk with being more aggressive this fight, like I said earlier, is that there's going to be more of a chance that you might get hurt and you might get KO. So I think with that, you have to put that in the equation. So I think as far as a knockout, I think I would have to say Usyk. I would have to say Usyk. All right. But I think AJ can knock him out too. And I think if AJ is planning on winning this fight, I think he would have to knock Usyk out. I think his chances of winning this fight is if he's going for the knockout and not trying to win on points. AJ will gas out longer. Kay says AJ will gas out long the longer it goes. Oh, this is the thing. AJ has done good with his stamina. I think ever since ever since he shredded down a little bit and cut down on the weight, and he's not as bulky as he was like in the Carlos Takam fight. I think, or even in the first Andy Ruiz fight. I think once he slimmed down some, I think his conditioning and his stamina has been much better. We saw him look really good against Ruiz in a rematch. He looked really good in the fight and the fight against Pulev, and even in some of the other earlier fights in his career where he was slimmer. I think he looks better when he's slimmed down. All right. The only difference is here, though, even though he has looked good in his conditioning and stuff, it hasn't looked really that gas. He's fighting a guy that is going to pick up the pace in the later half of the fight. And if it goes there, when you're getting pressured, like the way that Usyk pressures you, it can be overwhelming. I think AJ almost could have gotten stopped in that last round. I think AJ was in some big trouble. And I think if that fight, let's just say that 12th round was hypothetically, let's just say that 12th round was actually the 11th round. I think AJ might have been in a lot of trouble if there was a 12th round, another additional round. Because AJ looked completely burned out by the end. But it was the very end of the fight. It was the very last round. It was the very last round. So to give him credit, it's not like he was completely burned out by the 8th and the 9th. I think he's done a better job since like the Klitschko fight where he got really, tired. These are all learning experiences for AJ. The Klitschko fight where he punched himself out. He scored a knockdown, but he put himself at risk of getting knocked out, when Klitschko came back. Luckily for him, he was able to come back again, catch his second win. So even though AJ burns out, I wouldn't say that he has poor conditioning. I wouldn't say that. It's been up and down. I've seen him come back and look stronger in later rounds, like in the Klitschko fight. I know he was fighting an older Klitschko, but we've seen it's proven that AJ can fight strong in a later half of the fight. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. At the very least, Usyk at the very, very most, Usyk needed another round. And I think that it's possible that he might have got a stoppage or at least would have dropped AJ. Maybe not stopped him, but he might have, at the very least, he would at least drop AJ in the condition that AJ was in that 12th round. Well, Usyk's legendary fit says it's really hard not to trust Usyk's pacing. And I agree with you. I agree. His pacing is great. But let's say this time around, what can change Usyk's pacing is AJ's power. If AJ's landing, connecting with flush shots this time around, let's say he's connecting with some big power shots to the body. That can make Usyk slow down the pace. He may not want to engage with AJ as much if he's getting hurt to the body a little bit. So there's things that can happen, like what Bellew was doing. If AJ could find a way, we're doing better at controlling distance this time around, right? And he's able to time some of those right hands and connect flush with some of those right hands. Usyk is not going to be as confident and as willing to want to step in against AJ. He's not going to be more willing. So I think when it comes to pacing, I think there's a way to do it. I just think with the past opponents, I think his past opponents, Usyk, I'm talking about Usyk. Usyk's past opponents were doing so well against him in the first half of the fight that it took everything out of him. And I think that's part of the problem with those fighters that were doing well early, like Chisora, like Bellew, like Breedis. I think a lot of those fighters, in order to make the fight competitive, they had to be at their very, very best in the first 6 rounds just to make the fight competitive. Whether they were winning or not, they had to do so good early on, which burned him out. AJ's gonna have to fight a perfect fight to win this fight. He's gonna have to do what all of these other great fighters that fought Usyk wasn't able to do. At least he has size and power on his side going into this fight. He has more power than those guys. He has more size for the most part. But he's going to have to fight a perfect fight. And I think that he's capable of doing it. Will he do it, though? I don't know. We got to see on fight night. There's a lot more questions. Oh, excuse me. There's a lot more questions that need to be answered on AJ's side as opposed to Usyk. Especially because AJ is switching trainers. But I'm not going to sleep on AJ. A lot of people didn't think he would be Ruiz in a rematch. But Andy Ruiz was not supposed to win the first fight to begin with. So it was much easier to call it a rematch. I don't think Andy Ruiz was ever better than AJ. I think he had a great opportunity and caught AJ on a bad night. I don't think Usyk won by accident. There's a difference. So even if AJ is to adjust and make improvements for this fight, Usyk is going to be prepared for those improvements as well, like he probably was in the first fight. Randy asked, what would you say is AJ's best performance, and how much better does he need to beat Usyk? I just said it. He has to be damn near perfect. His best performance to me, performance. His best performance. I don't know. I would say Klitschko still. I can't say, I can't give. I like the Povetkin win. I like that win a lot. You know why I like the Povetkin win so much? I like the fact that I seen him change in the fight. I like how he dropped his lead hand low and was shooting jabs from the waist. I liked how he was shooting the up jab. I like how he started like after the first 3 rounds where I think he was losing. I like that performance simply because he was losing. He had a broken nose early, and he found a way to change and come back and win and stop Povetkin. And I know people were saying that Povetkin was old at that time and it was whatever. Povetkin still managed to knock Dillian White out a couple years after. I like that win. I think the Dillian White win was great only because of the action involved. But I don't think I like that performance based on how aggressive AJ was in that fight. I love the Brazil win because he was just clearly outboxing Brazil, and he was like really hurting him, like he was laying that power down. He was sharp in that fight. He was real sharp. But I would say Povetkin. I think it's between Povetkin and Klitschko. Klitschko obviously because he fumbled, he got dropped, and he was able to find a way to pull out the win. And I think it was like a modern day heavyweight classic. I think the classics are uh Povetkin, I'm sorry, AJ. Heavyweight classics right now, AJ and Klitschko. I think the Wilder and Fury trilogy classic. I think Wilder and Dillian White, Ortiz one was a great fight too. You know, those are probably some of the better, like some of my favorite heavyweight fights. As far as like the top tier guys, those three. AJ's classic is with Klitschko, Wilder and Fury's trilogy, of course, and Wilder against Ortiz one was excellent. Those are like my favorite ones. But I like Povetkin fight. I like that fight. I like him. I like when I see a fighter adjust in a fight. I like that. When you're good and you're just outclassing your opponent, that's cool. But I like when a guy that's like much more experienced than you and he's beating you up early, broke your nose early, hurt you early, and you were able to make adjustments and come back and win and get a stoppage too. So that's why I think the Povetkin performance was the best performance. Not the best fight, but the best performance. You know, God of War says AJ needs to make it rough and use his advantages. And yes, he does need to make it rough. He does need to make it rough. But he has to be smart at the same time with it. Peter says this fight is very exciting. Anything can happen. Yeah, anything can happen. We don't know what's going to happen until the fight goes down. Apollo asked me if Derek Chisora, can he give Wilder problems? Yeah, I think he can give Wilder problems up until the point he gets knocked out. And I love Del Boy, but I think he gives Wilder problems until he gets knocked out. I think if what's good, Ronnie? Uh, I think Chisora is gonna give Wilder problems up until the point he gets knocked out. As long as Wilder keeps that guard tight and deals with the physicality of Chisora early, like we seen Wilder take some rounds off early and being and losing fights early and then catching one. He might struggle a little bit early, but when he catches you, that's it. And Derek Chisora is not hard to hit. Derek Chisora is not that hard to hurt. You know, um, Wilder knocks him out. I mean, it's a good like tune-up fight though for Wilder, but I don't believe that Chisora beats Wilder. You know, even at this stage. Yeah, Chisora, you're right. Icky Sun says Chisora is too wide, too open for Wilder's right hand. Exactly. Yeah, Wilder fighting Fury 3 times is gonna be it's gonna be tough to beat Wilder for anybody. You know, I don't think there's many people that could really do it right now at the top tier heavyweights. I think Joshua and Usyk have the best chances of beating Wilder. I really wouldn't pick anybody else to beat Wilder. Even though I wanted Dillian White to get his shot against Wilder for years, I never would have predicted Dillian White to actually win it. I just wanted him to get his opportunity, but Wilder would have knocked him out in my opinion too. Igor asks, where does AJ goes if he loses? The same thing that I've always been saying. If AJ loses his fight next month, I want him to fight Deontay Wilder. You know, It's never going to change the fact that I want AJ to fight Wilder. It's not going to change the fact that I want AJ to fight Fury. You know, it's not going to change that. Like, I, I grew up in the 90s. I watched all of my favorite heavyweights lose to each other and pick up big wins. I watched Moorer and Holyfield won live. You know what I'm saying? Like, I watched it live. Like, I remember those fights. Uh, I remember when Lewis got knocked out by Oliver McCall. I remember watching these fights live. I was watching them with my dad. Like, I remember actively watching these fights on TV when I was a kid. I wasn't thinking about like, yo, he lost, that's it. No, they fought somebody else, and I watched it again, like the next fight. So, Still Mills Boxer says AJ needs to study the Linares versus Loma fight and watch how Linares threw the left hook, not with the intent to score, but hindered him from punching off those angles. Love the channel, big homie. Keep it up. Thank you for the donation, man. Thank you for the support. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of fights. You could go back and watch. Shout out to Boxing Gyms. I saw a little bit of the video. He did a breakdown and he was using a little bit of the footage from the Lomachenko fight, which is good because Loma and Usyk, they fight the same way. There's so many similarities with them both. And I remember doing a breakdown of the Linares Lomachenko fight. And, at that time, I thought Linares was the most dangerous for Lomachenko style wise. And I also thought that Teofimo Lopez was going to be able to capitalize on some of the things that Linares did in that fight. So yeah, that is a fight that you can that's another fighter that you can watch that is going to show AJ how to throw off Usyk. I think a more realistic, like direct way is the Bellew fight, which is a highly underrated fight. Performance for Bellew. I think that is what AJ is actually capable of doing. Some of the things that we saw in that fight, but with his own flavor to it. Ronnie says he wants AJ versus Joyce first. That's possible. I know like Joyce is like a mandatory. I did see an article that was posted that the Robert Helenius is like a WBA mandatory too. I mean, listen, there's a lot of belts on the line, so I'm sure there's mandatories all over the place. I know Joyce has been one for a while. I know Daniel Dubois is not far from being a mandatory for a fight neither. So, I mean, a lot of these guys are right there when it comes to mandatories. I mean, Fury, who I don't believe is going to actually retire, Fury is still the WBC champ, and he just fought Dillian White, who's a mandatory for like whatever, forever, So when it comes to the other three titles, the WBO, WBA, IBF, I'm sure there's going to be mandatories available. But Joyce versus AJ would be good. I believe that Joyce gets stopped. I think Joyce gets stopped. But if hypothetically, like if we lived in a perfect world, I would be like a realistic way I can see like if AJ is gonna lose this rematch, I see him having a tune-up. And when I say tune-up, I mean maybe not tune-up, but maybe like another top heavyweight like Joyce. I can see that fight happening. I can see Wilder returning, fighting Helenius. If they both are to win those fights, which I would expect them to, I could see them fighting each other, and that'll be that. That's how I can I would look at it. I don't believe that Wilder is gonna get, come back and return to boxing and go straight into a Joshua fight. I don't believe that's not even realistic. I think that Wilder is gonna, may come back, fight like a Hellenius, um, and then fight AJ. If AJ comes back, wins, and then they fight each other. Or I see, as far as Wilder, I think Wilder will probably come back, fight Hellenius, and if Andy Ruiz happens to beat Luis Ortiz, they'll probably have a pay-per-view. That sounds a little bit more realistic to me. You know, that sounds a little bit more realistic. And then AJ, I don't know what AJ would do in that scenario, but there's a lot of different scenarios that may take place. And I feel like, listen, even if AJ is to lose, let's say if he doesn't get Wilder, let's say AJ loses to Usyk and the Wilder fight just never happens. There's other scenarios where I can see AJ might pick up a win or two and then maybe fight Fury down the line, you know, because I still think there's going to be enough money to make that fight no matter how long it takes, you know? Textbook Boxing said, to me, Usyk isn't a master boxer like a Bud. He's more of a boxer who forces fighters to fight at a level that is unsustainable for over 12. That's why his fights gets less competitive the longer they go. That's a good point. Um, that's a good point. That's a good point. I've always rated Bud over Usyk as far as overall talent and over pound for pound. Even if you believe that Usyk has had a better career, which is fair, I'm not going to argue that. Um, I like to rate Bud better because I just think that talent wise, Bud is more. Um, I think he can do everything that Usyk could do, and I just think that he can do it better. Given the eye test, when I look at the both of them, I think that Bud can do that. And if they were to fight, and if they were to have hypothetically were to fight each other or at or around the same weight with the same skills, the same talent, and everything like that, I just think Bud would beat him. I don't think Bud would stop him, but I think Bud would beat him. Because I don't think what Usyk has done to all of these other fighters that he's beaten, I don't think he would able to win the same way. That rhythm, that pressure that he brings, basically what Textbook just said. I do agree with that. Now, I'm not going to take away. Now, what I'm not going to say is that he's not. I don't agree with him being a master boxer. Maybe not like Bud, but I do think he's an elite level boxer for sure. Now, I do think he's definitely one of the best boxers out there for sure. It's just that everybody has a different style, and his style works. He has a very effective style. He does what works, you know. He does what works against the opponents he's been facing. I don't think he's fought that guy that was able to challenge him in the second half of a fight. He just hasn't fought him. And a lot of that is based on the pressure, And I don't like saying pressure fighters are not like mastered. Like it's a style. It's still a technical ability that you have. Pressure. I don't think that pressure. I think people like to look at pressure and be like, yo, I can outwork you. It's still part of your style. Like it's still a talent that you are able to have, in my opinion, because you're doing what's effective to win a fight. That's your strength, and you know how to apply it in scenarios. And you also know how to adjust too. Will I be covering the Canelo versus Triple G fight? Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, when is the actual date? I know it's in sometime in September, but I'll be covering it. I would definitely not I would definitely not like, miss that fight. I would definitely be on here. All right. All right, but yeah, so listen, this is my early breakdown of a fight. I think at some point, obviously when the fight gets closer, I'm gonna do, actual breakdown with a prediction. But I think I covered most grounds with this video. If you came in a little light, go back. I was really going in the different ways that both fighters can win this fight, going this time around, and the adjustment that Joshua would have to take. I pretty much broke that down in the first like 50 minutes of this video here. So if you are coming in late, definitely go back, check it out. And also, please, if you are new, subscribe. Please share the video. If you like the video, smash the thumbs up, and please share the video on your social media platforms. And yeah, thank you for everyone that showed up, everyone that's left comments. Thank you for all the people that donated today. And I'm gonna get on out of here. All right. So y'all have a good one. Have a good rest of your day. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.